The prison was beautiful, in a way that only a species certain of victory could afford. They called it Eden. The council gathered in secret, far from the prying eyes of the species they planned to cage.
Honored Council, I present the solution to the human infestation. Project Eden, a planet-sized cage designed to break their spirit without a single execution. Efficient, permanent.
The hologram bloomed, revealing a world of brutalist concrete, razor wire, and endless gray corridors under a pale sky.
No human will see sunlight again. They will labor. They will be rehabilitated. And they will be forgotten. I ask only for your approval. Let Eden be our unanimous gift to a conquered humanity.
The chamber raised their hands as one, no dissent, no hesitation. The motion carried.
Let the construction begin. Project Eden is now the law of the Council.
By morning, construction drones landed on a dead world. The council named Tassari 7, and the first concrete blocks rose in secret. Months later, Councillor Varric stood on an observation platform, gazing over the construction of his masterpiece.
Magnificent. Every wall, every corridor, designed to strip away hope. The humans will learn their place.
Inside, the corridors were intentionally brutal. Bare concrete, harsh strip lights, cells barely large enough to stand in.
The air mixture is thinned, the gravity tweaked. By the time they arrive, they will already be broken.
Outside, the biome was calibrated to be hostile. Razor-thorned plants and venomous insects seeded the perimeter. A construction drone swung a concrete block wildly. A worker slipped from the scaffolding. A brief cry, then silence.
Unfortunate, but the project's timeline cannot be delayed for individual error. Continue work. These walls will hear thousands of humans breathing in despair, a fitting monument to our superiority.
6 months later, the last concrete panel was locked. Eden stood complete, a silent graveyard waiting for its dead. Councillor Varric returned to his flagship, satisfied. The prison was ready. The war could now begin. The council fleet folded into human space like a silent blade, hundreds of warships darkening the starfield.
The humans will crumble. They always do when faced with superior engineering and will.
Human defense forces scrambled to meet them, outnumbered and outgunned, their ships crude by comparison. The first salvos tore through the human lines. 3 corvettes vaporized in the opening minute.
Excellent. Prepare the transport ships for Eden. The first prisoners will need cells by week's end.
But the humans did not break. They fell back, regrouped, and came again with a ferocity the Council had not modeled. A Council flagship, the anchor of predominance, exploded amidships, its reactor breached by a suicidal human cruiser.
That was a capital ship. How? How did they sacrifice themselves so easily?
Anxiously, Varric watched the tactical display as more human ships surged forward, destroying their own damaged vessels to clear firing lanes.
Recall the fleet to rally points. This is not the swift campaign we anticipated.
Weeks later, the Council's grand offensive shattered against human resolve. Their fleets routed, their confidence broken. An elite marine unit found Tassari -7 by intercepted coordinates, landing on a world no human footprint had ever touched. They breached the main complex, expecting resistance, but found only silent corridors and rows of empty cells designed for human bodies.
A prison built for humanity before the war even began. They were that certain of victory.
On her flagship bridge, Admiral Donna swiped through the reconnaissance data, each image worse than the last.
Psychological breaking protocols, sensory deprivation plans, a breeding program for a captive workforce. This is industrial cruelty.
At the central tower, a Marine sergeant planted the flag of Earth, a silent mockery of the Council's ambition.
I want a full site analysis. Every corridor, every cell. We need to understand what this place was designed to do to us.
The report arrived 20 hours later, a catalogue of horror. Reduced oxygen cells, gravity manipulation, isolation units with no human contact.
They planned to erase us here, slowly, deliberately. Now we hold the key to their monster. What do we do with it?
Admiral Donna ordered her shuttle to the surface. She needed to walk the corridors herself, to feel the intent. The prison's interior was a monument to cruelty. Bare concrete, thin air, and a cold that seeped through her uniform.
They designed every inch to break a human soul. No daylight, no warmth, no mercy. And they called this Eden, a garden of suffering. The arrogance is almost incomprehensible.
She returned to her flagship office with a bundle of blueprints, throwing them across her desk with a heavy sigh.
I want options. Demolition is the easy route, but that feels like letting them off too cleanly.
Her senior staff gathered, analyzers pinging as they cataloged every structural weakness and environmental control.
We could turn their cage into a mirror, force them to look at what they tried to do. That would be real justice. Run feasibility studies, residential conversion, rehabilitation infrastructure. I want something that makes a point, not a ruin.
As her team dispersed, Donna remained, tracing a finger over the proposed cell dimensions, her mind already racing ahead. The next morning, Donna reconvened her core staff. The arguments were swift and sharp.
Demolition is the cleanest option, some say, but I disagree. That just erases the evidence of their intent. We could keep it as a monument, a museum of cruelty. But that still feels like honoring their design.
Another suggestion was to use it for human prisoners, a dark irony, but one that felt too close to what the council planned.
Number, we won't mirror their cruelty. That's exactly what they expected of us.
Silence settled. Then Donna picked up a red marker, leaning over the main blueprint. She wrote 2 words in deliberate strokes: repurpose, soften.
We turn it into a quiet, supervised settlement. A place for those who orchestrated this horror to reflect.
The order was transmitted an hour later. Project Eden was now a repurposing initiative under Director Donna's personal oversight. And beneath the red marker note, the blueprints began to change. Within weeks, construction crews stripped away the razor wire and jackhammered the oppressive walls into open spaces. Engineers hovered over tablets, redesigning cell blocks into cozy apartments with natural light and communal spaces. The harsh gray concrete was coated in pastel hues, soft blues, warm yellows, gentle greens. Greenhouses rose where guard towers once stood, filling the air with the scent of flowers and fresh soil. The hostile biome outside was tamed, razor-thorned plants replaced by tranquil gardens with benches and gentle pathways. A split image of the same building. On the left, a brutal concrete block. On the right, a charming pastel bungalow with a blooming garden. Workers removed the massive Project Eden sign and replaced it with a modest plaque. Tessari Community. Inside, the cells were transformed into comfortable quarters, each with a window, a small kitchen, and a view of greenery. Building 7, once a maximum isolation block, became a cluster of pastel houses, complete with front porches and welcoming lights. The transformation was complete. A place of suffering had become a place of restorative irony, waiting for its first guests. The war ended in a month. Counselor Varric was in his private chambers when the human Marines kicked down his door.
You cannot do this. I am a counselor. There are protocols, negotiations.
They ignored him. His ornate robes were torn from his shoulders, replaced with a plain undyed shirt and trousers.
They stripped me like a common criminal. Where are they taking me?
A fleet of human transport ships descended on Tessari -7. The first prisoners delivered to their own creation. The former counselors were herded through the intake hall, past gardens and pastel buildings they did not recognize.
This is the place I designed. What have they done to it?
A clerk handed Varric an identification card with a photo that made him look a century older.
Unit 7. What is this place? A work camp? An execution ground?
No one answered. He was led away, Past the blooming flowers and the quiet paths, his confusion growing with every step, the guards stopped before a small pastel blue house. Door number 7. Varric stared, expecting bars, not a porch.
Welcome to your new home, Counselor Varric. I am Daniel. I'll be your caretaker.
Caretaker? You mean jailer?
Call it what you like. We have a schedule to go over, but first, here is a welcome basket.
He handed Varric a basket of fruit, bread, and a small potted plant. Varric took it, bewildered.
This is absurd. They expect gratitude for a cell with flowers.
Daniel led him inside. The living room had an armchair, a bookshelf, and a window overlooking the garden.
Here is your weekly schedule. Meals, recreation, and mandatory appointments. It's all on the wall.
Mandatory. For what purpose?
You'll find out. It's not as bad as you think. Now, I'll let you settle in.
The next morning, Daniel knocked on the door, a cheerful greeting already forming.
It's time for your first mandatory appointment, Counselor.
What appointment?
Your weekly broadcast. Come, I'll show you the studio.
Daniel led him to a compact studio with a single chair, a teleprompter, and a camera that stared like a silent accuser.
A broadcast? To whom?
To every species in Council space. You'll describe your crimes in your own words. The schedule is non-negotiable.
A technician handed Varric a script. He saw his own title, Project Eden. The words he'd once spoken now demanded confession.
They've turned my creation into a confessional. My words will damn me before my own people.
The full weight of the reversal settled over him. The prison had become a stage, and he was the unwilling star. The technician signaled. Varric took his seat, the teleprompter glowing with words he'd once proclaimed as victory.
I am Counselor Varric. I address you not as your leader, but as the architect of Project Eden.
His voice was hollow, drained of the arrogance that had once filled the council chamber.
Every syllable chokes me, but the camera does not blink.
The signal raced through subspace, reaching the homeworlds of every species the council had once dominated. In public squares, vast crowds halted, staring at screens that showed their former masters in plain clothes. The silence was unnerving. Millions of council citizens witnessing the unthinkable. The ratings module lit up, viewership spiking beyond any projection, numbers racing upward. Varric finished the script, head bowed. The camera's red light went dark. The first broadcast of Project Eden Confessions was complete. Its ratings were already historic. In the human control room, producers stared at the ratings data, disbelief giving way to calculated excitement. A system-wide announcement followed. Each confessor would receive royalty payments proportionate to their audience share, with optional upgrades to premium units.
Royalties? They want to pay me for humiliating myself on galactic television?
It's a new policy. Some of your fellow counselors have already accepted.
I will not profit from my own confession. This is obscene.
He signed the refusal form with a firm hand, each stroke a small rebellion, but not all shared his conviction. Another counselor accepted the offer immediately, requesting a transfer to a premium unit with a private garden. The next day, a transport arrived to move the accepting counselor to the upgraded sector, where larger homes and personal amenities awaited.
They trade their shame for a larger cell. And still they do not see the irony.
The community had its first division, a rift that would only grow as the broadcasts continued. Days passed. Varric found a strange solace in tending his small garden. The soil cooled beneath his fingers.
I built a world of thorns, and now I find peace in pulling weeds. The irony is not lost on me.
Standing, he looked out his window and saw the distant, larger house of the counselor who had accepted royalties.
He traded confession for a larger cage, but I cannot stomach the script any longer. I must speak my own words.
That night, he sat at his small wooden desk, a pen in hand, and began to write without a prompt. He wrote of the council chamber, the vote, the worker who fell, and the hatred he once held.
Let them hear the truth from my own soul, even if it destroys me. At least, it will be real.
He folded the pages and hid them in a drawer, a secret script for his next broadcast.
Morning, Counselor. Your next broadcast is tomorrow.
I will be ready.
The next morning, Varric walked to the studio, his folded pages tucked inside his plain shirt. The studio lights were harsh as always. The teleprompter glowed with the approved script. He pushed the prompter aside and unfolded his own words, hands trembling.
I am Counselor Varric, and I will not read their lies. I will speak the truth of what I have done. I designed this place to break a species. I called it Eden because I thought their suffering would be a paradise for us.
In the control room, the crew froze, hands hovering over switches. But the signal kept transmitting.
A worker fell during construction, and I called it unfortunate. I did not see him as a life, only a delay. I hated humanity without knowing a single human. I was wrong. I was monstrous.
The camera's red light never wavered. The broadcast reached every world that had once bowed to the Council. When finally his voice fell silent, the galaxy held its breath. In the control room, the ratings graph shot past every ceiling, numbers still climbing as the broadcast ended. The automated report read, "Audience share unprecedented." Varric's confession reached 98% of all Council space. On the homeworlds, crowds stood motionless, tears streaming down faces of species that had never wept for an enemy. In homes, families huddled together, the screen light painting their faces in shades of sorrow and confusion. In a dim conference room, human administrators watched a wall of feeds, each screen showing a different Council world in turmoil. "This is beyond propaganda," one said. "The confession is having a cultural impact we never predicted, and the royalty requests are flooding in," another added. "But we're also receiving applications, former councilors asking to join." A digital display appeared, titled "Waiting List for Tessari Community," the names already scrolling beyond the screen.
Counselor Varric, you've started something. The waiting list for this place is years long now.
They want to come here, to this place. I do not understand what I have set in motion.
A knock at his door interrupted the quiet afternoon. Varric set down his book and rose. "Counselor Varric, my name is Administrator Chen. I am here with an offer. The ratings for your broadcast were extraordinary. The board has authorized your transfer to a premium unit."
I will not accept.
The administrator held out the keys, but Varric raised his hand, shaking his head firmly.
I built this place to cage others. I will not take a larger cage for myself.
The administrator tapped his tablet, showing the waiting list, thousands of names, all former councilors. "Your honesty has inspired dozens to apply. This place is becoming something else entirely."
Then let them come. But I will remain here. It is all that I deserve.
He returned to his garden, the keys left on the small wooden table, where they would stay for days. The days turned into months. Varric settled into a quiet routine, the keys forgotten on the table. Each morning, he walked the garden paths, tending the flowers that had replaced the razor-thorned plants.
Afternoon, Counselor. I brought your favorite tea.
Thank you, Daniel. I have come to find comfort in small things.
They sat on the porch in a silence that had become familiar and easy. New residents arrived weekly. Varric even reconnected with an old rival over a chessboard in the public garden.
I built this place to house enemies. Now, it feels closer to home than my palace ever did.
The waiting list expanded, but Varric's small blue house remained unchanged.
You never did take those keys, Counselor.
Some cages are not made of walls, Daniel. I choose to stay in the one I built.
The quarterly report delivered to the administration showed royalty funds had reached unprecedented levels. The automated calculation indicated Varric's refused share alone could purchase a lavish estate, but his refusal form remained untouched, while the waiting list for Tessari -7 stretched to 7 years. A commentator on the Council Homeworlds remarked, The architects of our suffering now compete to live in their own cage. Meanwhile, several former counselors had accepted payments, moving into premium units with pools and private gardens. The irony was not lost on human administrators. The prison built to break humanity now funded its own operation. Applications continued to flood in. Each new name, a testament to the strange justice of Tesserae -7. The community had become so popular that original counselors who refused royalties were regarded with quiet reverence. Project Eden had become the galaxy's most sought-after retirement destination, and the ratings, against all probability, were still rising. A documentary crew landed on Tesserae -7, requesting Varek's on-camera interview for a historical archive.
I have no story worth telling beyond my regret. I decline.
They offered a substantial sum. The refusal letter joined the others, untouched. Anonymous sympathizers began leaving flowers at his doorstep. Others came merely to stand outside the garden of Unit 7, hoping for a glimpse of the penitent architect. Varric paid them no mind, his hands deep in the soil he had softened.
I did not build this place for pilgrimage. I built it for punishment. Mine.
The documentary was made without him, using only his broadcast footage. When it aired, the ratings surged anew. Varric never watched. He remained in his garden, a symbol of the penitent heart the galaxy never expected. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Varric sat on the porch, a cup of cold tea forgotten beside him. Daniel found him there, and with a familiar ease, sat on the bench beside him.
Your garden is thriving, counselor. I've never seen such roses on Tesserae -7. It's beautiful.
It keeps me rooted. The soil forgives in ways I cannot.
A comfortable silence fell between them, filled only by the distant chirp of insects.
I never imagined I would prefer this life. Here, I am more at peace than I ever was in power.
You've changed, Varric. I think you've found a kind of freedom.
Freedom. Perhaps it is. I am no longer a builder of cages.
Daniel smiled gently, his blue uniform crinkling as he relaxed against the bench. The evening deepened around them, and they remained there, two unlikely friends, in a garden once built on thorns. The next morning, Varric sat alone on a simple wooden bench in the community garden. Through the large window, he watched the blue sky and manicured lawn, the very freedom he had once sought to cage. A shadow passed outside the glass. Daniel appeared, his familiar blue uniform bright in the sunlight.
Good morning, Varric. It's a beautiful day, isn't it?
Varric raised a hand in a slow, quiet wave. For a moment, he simply watched the human guard, the caretaker who had become something closer to a friend.
I built a prison. They turned it into a home. And somehow, they made room for me.
A small, genuine smile touched the corner of his mouth. It was almost imperceptible, but it was real. Daniel waved once more, then turned to continue his rounds, his figure disappearing among the flowers. The old counselor sat there for a long while, the sun warm on his ash-gray skin, at peace at last. From orbit, Tesserae -7 was a jewel of green and blue, dotted with pastel settlements that glittered in the sun. The prison built to cage humanity had become the galaxy's most famous retirement community. The architects of cruelty now competed for a spot on its waiting list, their confessions bankrolling the very justice they had mocked. Varric remained in his small blue house, a quiet symbol of penance, while the ratings numbers climbed ever higher. He never took the larger house, never accepted the royalties. He simply tended his garden. Humanity had taken his masterpiece of suffering and, with quiet irony, turned it into a home. They called it Eden, a name chosen in arrogance, now reborn in justice. And the ratings, they were still rising. Some cages, it turned out, could be opened from the inside, and the architects of Eden became its most devoted inhabitants.